How can you differentiate your personal statement from just your narrative resume? This is a question that my students ask me all the time because we want to incorporate stories from our personal lives and we want to incorporate stories from our professional life. But sometimes as we're going through it, it can be really easy to just go chronological or end up feeling like we're just running through our resume. I don't know how many of you have ever had that concern that, man, this sounds just like my resume in narrative form. So we're going to talk to you a little bit today about how you can avoid making your personal statement just your resume in narrative form, why it's important that your personal statement show emissions more than what they can get on your resume, and also the importance of showing instead of telling. So that first point, why is it important for your personal statement to be more than just your narrative resume? You know, I have talked to you guys about this analogy a lot. You want to make sure that your application, it's like a puzzle, right? And you have multiple different pieces in your puzzle. Now, you want to be a larger piece puzzle than maybe someone else. So you could be a 50-piece puzzle, or you could be an 1,000-piece puzzle. And the more admissions gets to know you, the more they get to appreciate you and understand you and see the different layers of you, the more impact your application is going to have on them, the more they are going to really want to advocate for you and want you to be a part of their law school community. In order for them to do that, they really do need to get a full understanding of who you are. So if you continually give them the same exact puzzle piece, right? And I'm going to take an extreme example. Let's say your resume is about immigration. Like you've done a lot of work with nonprofit, immigration, that sort of thing. And then your personal statement is literally just going straight through your resume. Like, here's one thing I did after another thing after another, without any kind of personal touch. And then your diversity statement is, wait, you guessed it, about being an immigrant. Not that being an immigrant and your immigration story isn't important. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you've now told them the same story in 3 different ways. Instead of them learning 3 different sides of you, they've learned the same side 3 different ways. You are a 50-piece puzzle. You are not an 1,000-piece puzzle. You are not maximizing your applications for, for success, right? You're not giving yourself your best shot. So how do you make sure that you are, a 1,000-piece puzzle? By differentiating the different parts of your application and recognizing that they each do different things, but they each need to work in tandem together. So that's really important. Now, when you work with me or when I work with my students on personal statements, one of the things that I do like to do is I do like to have them pick stories and moments. You've heard me talk many, many, many times about the fact that you should not be constructing a single story narrative in your essay. Your essay should not just be one story, because then you're like a 10-piece puzzle, for real. I've not learned that much about you. I've learned about you in this one instance, but I really hadn't learned a ton about you. So, I don't want you to be a 10-piece puzzle. So you can't be and produce a single story narrative. I understand that there might be one really defining moment, and you can have one moment in your diversity statement, but in your personal statement, please give me more than one moment. At least 2, ideally 3. 3 is a nice number. And yes, you should include both personal and professional stories, but keyword on include personal, and then the other keyword was stories. Okay, so when you're talking to me about this desire, this passion that you have to go to law school, because really your personal statement is like telling me and walking me through the genesis, the development of a passion, right? It's an arc that might not have started with you even knowing that you were going to go to law school. Sometimes we don't know where the arc ends, but it's an arc, right? So you're telling me one cohesive story with different parts. Those different parts are different stories. You want to make sure that you have some sort of personal connection, because that part's not on your resume, right? And even when you talk about your professional experiences, you don't want to just tell me the same sentences that are on your resume. You want to make sure that you are focusing on stories, that you're focusing on moments, because those moments will show your character. Those moments will show how you react in situations, how you feel about situations, the development of your thought process. Those moments show so much, right? And so you really want to make sure that if you're just telling me the same things that I can get on your resume, I am not learning that much, right? It's not that you can't talk about things that are on your resume. And I'm going to take this moment to say that nothing in admissions is black or white. So I know that some people, they give advice and they're like, never do this. And I don't usually say that, except for please don't, you guys heard last week, please don't say I want to be a voice for the voiceless, because like nails, chalkboard, you're killing me. But I rarely give you complete absolutes. I do sometimes, right? Like, don't just tell me one story. Don't focus on your trauma. Don't center someone else. But in terms of actual topics, like people say, oh, can I write about this? Is this topic off limits? Is that topic off limits? No, right? Like, I cannot give you any kind of blanket answer about the fact that you cannot write on an entire topic, because it depends on how you write it. Nothing in admissions is black or white. Everything in admissions is sea of gray. And that might make you feel unsettled, but I say embrace the gray, right? Embrace it. You want to have nuance. So this is a nuanced discussion about what kinds of things go in your personal statement. I teach that you should focus on stories, moments, and anecdotes, because those show more than just the sentences and the words on your resume that are just telling you what you've done. You know, you want to make sure that you're showing and not telling. Now, I will tell you, if you're like, I want an example, I don't understand what's just centering someone else, or what's just telling and not showing, in the link below, I actually have just released my new $37 personal statement breakdown, because I think that it's important that you guys see what I'm talking about. So in this mini course, in the personal statement breakdown, you will get to literally watch the transformation from 4 different essays. You'll get to see where they were not going great, and these are students that I've worked with, students that are now at top law schools, and you'll get to see how we workshop them, so you can see the transformation. You can see how they started off maybe just telling, and then you can see what showing looks like. You can see when they started off centering their trauma or centering someone else, and then you can see what centering themselves looks like. So we kind of go through a few of the common mistakes, and I show you that transformation. I also give you 5 additional sample essays so that you can see, but they're just samples. You know, I have read hundreds of personal statements. There is no one exact, oh yes, your personal statement absolutely has to look like this person. But I just wanted to give you samples so that you can see how you can begin to craft your own authentic voice. It's a mini course. It's not something that you have to be like, oh, I need weeks to do. Like, you can do it this afternoon. Right? You can use this course so that you can look at your own writing and you can say, oh my goodness, I see how I can make this better. I see how I can strengthen this paragraph. I see how I can make these transitions smoother. So it breaks down, that's why it's called the personal statement breakdown. It breaks down the personal statement, and it breaks down some of those common mistakes. It's just $37. The link is below. I absolutely want you to have it so that you cannot feel confused and lost in this process. So definitely make sure that you check that out. But kind of, going into this third point, right? Like, we talked about why you need to make sure that your personal statement is not just a regurgitation of your resume, beyond the fact that that is incredibly boring, because they already have your resume. And by creating a personal statement that is just a regurgitation of your resume, you are actually missing out on giving them additional pieces to your application puzzle. You're missing out on the depth and the nuance, and just the flavor and the multidimensionality and the multifaceted nature of who you are as a person. Okay, and then we talked about, so, how can you avoid that? Well, you avoid that by including personal connections to the area of law that you want to practice. And you have that. You absolutely have that, because I don't believe that anyone goes through this entire process. I don't believe that you spend all this money on LSAT tutoring and LSAT prep, and you're about to do 3 years of your life without a personal connection to the area of law that fills you with passion. right? So I want you to think about that. I want them to learn something about you, and you need to tell them through stories, through anecdotes. And this last point that I want to talk to you about is showing and not telling. So what does that look like? I'm going to give you a really basic example, right? My team won the race, and it was such a meaningful moment to me. Okay, how boring was that sentence, right? What about, I did it. I was laying on the ground, panting, and when I looked up and my teammates were rushing towards me, as the sweat dripped down my face, I could see their grins, and I knew we had won the race. You don't have to say that was a meaningful moment. With all of that imagery, I know it was a meaningful moment. You put me in the story. I could see it. I could feel it. I could imagine it. And if I can imagine it as a reader, then I am with you on this journey. So I want you to be thinking about how can I weave stories together that keep the reader engaged? How can I put my different aspects of myself together in a way that tells one cohesive narrative? That is what your personal statement should do. That is how you make sure that they see how multifaceted and wonderful as an individual you are. And yes, some of those stories might be professional, but we're not just going to list all the accolades that you did or list all the awards. Like, listen, they have your resume, they will read it, they will see the awards, they will see that you helped 20 students and you raised $70 million or whatever it is that's on your resume, they will see it. But what they don't see on your resume is the moment that you were working late and found that answer for a client. What they don't see on the resume is you sitting in the courtroom listening to testimony that you had prepped someone on. What they don't see is you standing up to your boss and writing a letter and really advocating for HR and what that felt like. They don't see you and your coworkers brainstorming till 2 a.m. They don't see, the research that you did on that municipal law. They don't see you in the library and, eating takeout at 1 a.m. Like, they don't see those moments, right? I made all of those up. I don't know what your moments are. Your moments might be, much more chill. That's fine. Whatever your moments are, they were meaningful. They were impactful. And that will show them more about who you are, about your character. You don't have to tell me, oh, I work hard, or I'm diligent. Show me. Oh, I have good communication skills. I work well in teams. Show me. I have perseverance. I have integrity. I'm motivated to always do my best. Show me. Don't tell me. Words are cheap, right? Show me. Show me in your stories, and your professional examples will not read like a resume. So, to recap, today we covered what the difference is between a personal statement and just a narrative regurgitation of your resume, and why nobody wants that. Literally nobody wants that. And I really make sure that my students' essays do not read like that. Then we covered how you can include those professional examples in a way that is not just going through your resume, through stories, through anecdotes, through including personal lens. And then I gave you some examples of show, don't tell. How you can really use narrative writing. You can really use imagery and descriptive words. You can use elevated speech and elevated syntax to really make that impact. And leave the reader feeling like they just went on the journey with you. And leave them wanting more. Make sure to check the link below to get that personal statement breakdown. Like I said, it's $37, and you will get so much goodness. You will get full personal statement walkthroughs with examples, tutorials, and tips, before and after transformation videos of several personal statements. You'll get a personal statement rubric. You'll get an in-depth walkthrough of the most common mistakes and how to fix them. And then you'll get 5 sample essays, most of them from top schools, including 2 from my alma mater, Harvard Law School. And if you haven't checked it out, Harvard Law School just wrote a blog on me on the HLS admissions blog, so definitely check that out. I love my alma mater. Find a school that will support you like Harvard has supported me. Shout out to Christy Jobson, she's the real one, and all the people in the HLS world. they really do care about diversity, equity, inclusion, and so I'm glad that I could choose a school that really aligned with my values as well. I also have a full personal statement course, and that will really walk you through brainstorming, developing your why law statement, honing in on your focus, crafting your paragraphs, outlining and structuring, all that good jazz. And then, of course, I do hourly consulting as well as private full packages. So if you ever want to figure out how to work with me, also shoot me an email or just go to my website, law.smontgomeryconsulting.com, and we'll be able to figure it out then.